In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Hello! Welcome back to another pointless automotive podcast. On Hallows Eve, do we ever release the live date we're recording? Is that
we should, but today's a special one. I thought about coming in costume.
I thought about that too.
Because I did have, although I've spent like about 24 hours in it over the course of this weekend with various activities.
Nice.
But I do have it's a pineapple. It's a full-on pineapple costume. I mean, it was cheap. It was like $20 at the local Halloween superstore.
I can relate. I'm a cheap date.
Exactly. But pineapple, some would say it's a controversial costume with pizza lore and all.
Oh, yeah.
Are you team?
No. What?
You
You're
know?
the East Coast, man. You don't.
I will say the quote-unquote Hawaiian pizza, the ham and the pineapple.
Sure.
I think it is extremely overrated.
Okay.
It's not poison, like some people will chalk it up to being straight up terrible.
It is fruit on
I think
pizza.
it's very just like whatever.
Yeah.
The secret though, the tried and true secret.
Wait, here it comes.
This is another pointless automotive podcast, by the way. But we are taking a sequitur real
This is
quick.
fitting for the next episode for sure.
It is. We'll get there. We'll get there. We got the rest of Halloween.
Let's do
to get
it.
through. But the sneaky good is you go pineapple.
Okay.
You go pepperoni. Okay. And jalapeno. That's the sneaky good because you get the sweet,
Yeah.
you get the salty, and you get the spicy. I'm telling you, it's a
Sacrilege, dude.
power combo.
My favorite meme online is this guy being held back. I forget what movie the scene's from. It's like clearly being held back with full force, and it says the first time an Italian had to witness someone putting pineapple on a pizza. It was like they were torturing him by making him watch it.
But it's similar, I saw where this gal, she was like making her Italian boyfriend talk without using his hands, and he physically couldn't do it. Like, he was like trying to restrain himself, and he kept like accidentally slipping and using his hands.
Is that racist?
No, I think it's just an actual like cultural quirk that has developed over thousands of years.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about cars today, I think.
yeah, I
Maybe.
don't know. What are we doing?
Let's talk about naming conventions, and I like to call this the automaker model name game because it
The
really
name game.
it seems like a damn game, man.
What's in a name?
Yeah, where's that shit come from? Because if you look at current some current vehicles are definitely going to come up, but some names are important. Some they seem like arbitrary mixes of alpha-numeric combos that someone farted out on a boardroom floor.
I know, and there is strategy behind that. I guess we'll get there.
Maybe
There it is.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. I think this is a kind of a fun. This is going to be a fun, lighthearted topic.
Yes.
I think I don't know. We might like evolve into some like
Tear
deep
up.
underbelly of like the automotive world. But I think the name game, if you will, is kind of interesting because. First off, there's been so many various different names and naming conventions and strategy behind naming of vehicles that almost like you can almost look at stuff like, era by era and decade by decade, and you can kind of see shifts in how things are named and whatnot.
like the space age stuff when
Your
exploration was a big
turbo
thing.
rocket fluid injected, Oldsmobile F85 with turbo rocket power and like all that stuff.
Or hell, names coming back like Thunderbird and failing. And,
and all of that stuff.
all kinds of
we
fun stuff.
I guess we'll probably get into the whole Mustang Mach-E thing eventually. But what's interesting with the whole naming thing is it's fun to talk about, and it's not something I don't think people spend a whole lot of time talking about, unless it is the Mustang Mach-E hot take.
Yeah, it's true.
But I do think what's interesting is, I guess maybe to start off, how important do you think a name for a car is? Like in the pantheon of things that are important, right? Like, whether it's super important and it's like just as important as like overall styling of a car. Maybe it's just like a footnote. No one cares as long as the car is cool. I don't know. Like, what's your thought on that?
Well, I feel like recognition is a big thing, right? So you got like everybody knows what a Honda Civic is, Honda Accord, and those nameplates have been around forever at this point, right?
Right.
So anybody in the street's like, oh, you tell me you have an Accord, you're like, oh, that's a good, reliable vehicle. I bet it's got low running costs.
Yeah.
Because the name just
Camry.
incites that. Except when you maybe say
Corolla.
Cross Tour. or something like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're
try to
cross tour.
You throw a chord on there just to get that
Camry
market.
Solara.
Oh,
which
that's
is
true.
And that's a funny thing, and that's not to go too off in the weeds, but like when you have like the new car that launches, and I feel like Toyota is very, very guilty of this.
Corolla Cross.
Exactly. You have your Corolla Cross or your Celica Supra or your Camry Solara, where they go like, and then eventually even a Tercel. The Tercel was originally the Corolla Tercel.
Corolla Matrix.
And then a couple of Corolla Matrix. Exactly. They have all of these things. It's like, we're going to take an existing nameplate and we'll make a different version of it. And then after a couple of years, we'll kind of break it off into its own deal.
Phase it out.
And they kind of set the table, which is kind of an interesting.
Didn't Scion? Wasn't that kind of Scion's like whole operation?
Sort of.
Kind of.
Or even when you had Nissan buy Datsun.
Yes, I was going to say that too. Yeah.
Get
that Datsun slowly
crossover. We're like, you know what? Yeah. Datsun. We did some terrible things during World Wars, and we made some tools that were like flown into the broadsides of battleships and such. And so we're gonna. I know it's been a while, but let's change it over to Nissan. Let's see that whole.
We got to give it to the Axis powers, right? Like, because the German and Japanese cars are so damn cool. They really came to their own.
Maybe they used all those terrible various scientists and whatnot to eventually. Oh wait, no, never mind. That was us. Like the whole Operation Paperclip thing. Anyways,
and canceled.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think a name is pretty important. And as you said, like now a nameplate like Accord or Camry, they have gravitas, and I think that's probably been proven by the whole. Like using the Corolla name or the Camry name to branch off a new model name, but I think the name itself, like Accord or Corolla, isn't like in a vacuum. I don't think it's a particularly good name.
No, yeah,
but it has become that because of the weight and the quality of the car that morphed it into. If you say Camry, nobody goes, "What is that?" They just like, "Oh, that's a practical, reliable." Mode of transportation,
right? Yep.
But in abstract, Camry, like I feel like it's like some like Latin name for crown or something like that. I think is what it is.
Definitely, yeah. Translated from Japanese, and then we've lost the meaning a long time ago. But it's like
the legend of Starion being stallion mistranslated, which I think has been disproven.
That is definitely racist.
Yeah, it's a little sketch.
Mitsubishi Stallion.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's interesting to think. If you were going to make a new car today, right? Pretend the Corolla or the Accord never existed, and you're like, here's a new Honda Accord. It's like Accord is they just short according? Like I don't
accordion.
An Accord, yeah, exactly. Like a peace accord. Like I'm really confused.
Or it's crumple zone an accordion.
It's dumb. So in that respect, it's like it kind of doesn't matter. But then other times, then you have like your Ford Probes of the world, where you're like, oh man, the name kind of is not great.
Right.
And it kind of tainted the
probe
taint. It's kind of sullied that vehicle, I think, in a way, because the MX-6 is the same car, and people are like, oh, Mazda MX-6, that's kind of cool.
Right.
The Ford Probe, like, oh, it's a Probe.
Exactly.
I don't know. So, what do you think? Do you think it's hyper important? Like, I know you said
it's tough, man. It's tough to say. Well, then it's like, is it really though? Because I think we're gonna, knowing us, we're probably gonna talk about the obscure naming conventions.
Oh, we're gonna probe into those.
Yeah, we're gonna probe the taint deeply.
Exactly.
But starting off, man, I kind of like when the name means something that anyone can pick up on. That's universal, and one of those universal things are numbers that make sense. And what I'm going with here is, I freaking love it when it has engine displacement hidden in the name.
Sure.
So what am I talking about? How about like a Lexus IS300, a 3-liter V6, or an inline 6 for some of those.
So what you're not talking about is like the brand new like C63,
right? That
doesn't like a turbo hybrid 4-cylinder mashup,
or that it was never a 6.3. Wasn't it always a 6.2? Isn't that correct on those?
Correct, and then even. But it's all just a throwback to the old.
Right, it's very misleading because their other cars were, like the C55 was a 5.5 liter V8.
Correct. Yep, and then not to even go into something where you have like your the Taycan Turbo S.
Oh my god.
Where you get into that, which turbo has kind of become not turbo, like in the pantheon of like saying things. I mean, you'll see a commercial like this dishwashing detergent has been supercharged by, and it's like, that like literally doesn't mean anything.
Sure.
It's just a marketing blurb.
Well,
yeah, that is interesting.
And BMW used to be like fantastic about that, like the 325. You know, clearly that's a 3 Series, which was the model, and then it was a 2.5 liter displacement.
Yeah, 318, 316.
And then they got weird with it, right? They got weird,
and then it's funny because it's just like once you get a little bit weird with it, you know, like you have you lose your Z3, your Z3 2.3. Which was actually a 2.5 liter.
Correct.
But because it was a lesser 2.5 than the other 2.5, and so they didn't want to call it a 2.5. Or 2.5 was too close to 2.8, and so they didn't want to call it a 2.5 because it seems marketing speak too close to 2.8. So why would you get the 2.8? Because you can just get the 2.5, so they could call it a 2.3.
Sure.
And just goofy stuff like that. But once you start getting into that territory, it seems like 100 times out of 100, a manufacturer will just go, screw it. It doesn't mean anything anymore, and then they go totally off script instead of like trying to rein it back in and be like, hey, maybe we should get back to this making sense.
Yeah. Or like hybrids going in between, like Lexus does with the CT. My CT 200H is a 1.8 liter because it has a hybrid power. It's in between.
Or like the LS 600H, which
is not a 6 liter.
It's not a 6 liter. It's just, I don't know. Or you have like the LC 500 and LC 500H. Where like, oh, they took the 5 liter and they hybridized it. It's like, no, it's actually a 3.5 liter V6 with a hybrid drivetrain. So yeah, it's interesting when you get kind of out over your skis as far as, like, as you said, like, you know, let's say an SL 560.
Right.
You're like, oh, that makes sense. It's a 5.6 liter.
Sure.
But then you get farther down into the woods, and you're just like, oh no. Or even SL, right? The original SL was Sport Light.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get to the later generation stuff, and it's just like, that convertible weighs 4,300 pounds.
Which is actually not light. I guess it's light today. Cars are so heavy. But how about, what I'm thinking is like the old Infiniti stuff made so much sense too. Like the G20, the G35, the G37. Oh, they upgraded the engine to a 3.7 liter? I can tell by your nameplate.
Can I get on a soapbox for a minute?
You're going to bring up some cues, aren't you?
Dude, there's so many bad decisions that have befallen the Infiniti brand.
It's like they almost went bankrupt.
Exactly. Like and it became like so let's backtrack just a little bit.
Okay.
So kind of what you're alluding to with the naming convention for a vehicle where it's just like a slew of letters or numbers and letters, right? Yep. Like your Lexus ES330 or your Mercedes CL55 or your BMW 735iL, right? The reason that these, or Infiniti M35, M45, the reason that these manufacturers will do this, specifically luxury manufacturers,
right,
traditionally, will do that is so if you walk up to somebody and they go, oh hey, what kind of car do you drive? You kind of don't say ML320.
Sure.
You're kind of forced to say I drive a Mercedes-Benz ML320.
Right.
Right? So you now have the overarching manufacturer's name coming out of your mouth anytime you talk about your car.
That's true.
Because, deep into the woods car people, if you walk up and you say, oh, I've got an E36 325i, like people go, oh, like, okay.
I know we know chassis codes, man.
Yeah.
You can do that.
But if you're picking up the kids from soccer practice in your ML 450, which is a deplorable vehicle, but if let's say you're doing that, you're not saying you have an ML 450. You're saying you have this
Mercedes
or GL 450, I should say. So that's the whole idea on why you want your Genesis G70, or you have these perceived luxury brands. Volvo S60. Like you have to say that, right?
I think there's another component to that point too. Is these global vehicles, right? Like sometimes one word in a country, which could be like a respectable term, could mean something important, could translate to something quite horrible in another market, right?
Starring.
So,
but no.
Exactly. So they pick these letter and number combinations because they're universalities, right? They're like,
yes.
No matter where you are, that's the same vehicle. It doesn't mean like a burnt turd in some other country, right?
Or here, like, you know, all the JDM stuff from like the 90s, you had all like your Nissan Cedric.
Yeah,
Sylvia. And over here, it's just like you have a Cedric, like the entertainer. Like I'm confused. Yeah, like it doesn't carry over as well. So that's another angle of it too. So you have this era of like, oh, we have to have this like corporate design structure for our vehicles. So not only will people have to say Infiniti Q60, right? We're also going to streamline it. So now you have your Q followed by a smaller number is a smaller car, and then if it's Q followed by a larger number, it's a larger car. And if we put an X in there, oh boy, that means it's an SUV, and the X stands for like cross terrain or some nonsense that nobody's going to pick up on.
Sure.
So that's what Infiniti did in, I don't know exactly the year, what 2010ish, I want to say.
Went to all Q, right?
They went to all Q. So they poached some marketing honk from, I think, Audi.
Okay.
To be like, hey, we're going to re-up. We need to rebuild our brand. So we're going to headhunt this guy from Audi. And he's like, I know what's going to fix Infiniti. We will absolutely alt-control-delete all of our actual limited history.
Sure.
With the M's. You have your QX.
Which I actually liked their naming convention back in the day.
It was okay.
I think behind
like, and it made sense, right? Like your G20 had a 2-liter.
Yeah.
And your G37 had a 3.7 liter, and your M45 was different than the M35. Correct. Because the displacement match, which is what you were just talking about.
Right.
So they decided to just completely nuke their and then replace it with numbers that like nobody knows or cares. Like if you were to pin me down and name and try to have me name the entire Infiniti lineup of the last couple of years or current. And say like, oh, the midsize is this, and the compact one is that, and then they have a compact SUV, which is, I think it's a QX30, I think. And then they have a big one, which is maybe a Q. Do they have a Q90? I know they had a Q60, and then I think they had a Q50. I think.
Yeah, they definitely had a Q50.
And did they do a Q70, or did they unceremoniously skip it and go Q80?
Well, they had hybrids too, which I think had the exact same name.
Right.
As the
they just slapped a hybrid on
it.
it, and then they had the Red Sport, which sounds like an 80s like masculine. Well, exactly. Yeah, or I was gonna say some Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from the 80s. Introduce Jean-Claude in Red Sport.
Kumite.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If he dies, he dies. So, it's so hard to follow. And you've had other manufacturers be able to pull it off, like BMW, right?
Right.
For a while, anyways, until they completely sharded the bed. Because you had a 3 Series. It was originally, you can get a 3 Series, you get a 5 Series. So 3 was the smaller one. You can get a coupe sedan convertible wagon. 5 Series was the intermediate one. Yep. Same story. Okay. And then the 7 Series, that was the flagship luxury sedan only, which is fine. And that was it. And then you had like SUVs when they did the SUV thing, X1, X3, X5. And that was kind of it, right? And then you had convertibles, Zs, right? Z3, Z4, Z8.
Sure.
Okay? But then they decided, hey, you know what, let's change it. Let's go, we're going to make all our sedans odd number stuff and all of our coupes even number stuff.
Except
coupes. Then they immediately decided to shit in that punch bowl and say, okay, yeah, our coupes, we made all the even numbers. And then like within like a year or two, they decide to just, we'll make 4-door ones and we'll call it a Grand Coupe. Oh, and then we'll make SUV like crossover ones and we'll call it the GT, which has a hatch and it's kind of lifted. And then we're going to have our SUVs, which will be like X1, X2, and we're going to do the same thing. Like the X2 and the X6 and the even number ones, and the X4 will be coupey looking 4-door SUVs. And then you can get different style. You know, and then Mercedes-Benz did the same thing.
Dude,
they completely sharded.
They really missed the M3 and M5 Grand sedans and make them 2-doors. They missed it.
Yeah, that's right. The Grand sedan, right? This is like go backwards. Or no, what you have is, and then you have like the Grand hardtop, which is really a soft top convertible.
Of course.
And just completely just.
It's a power convertible.
and so I don't know, if I was to make a list of like best and worst names, I would say probably you build a naming convention to immediately torpedo it, or change it up, or do whatever Mercedes-Benz does, which was they decide to make coupe versions of SUVs. They're the same thing, but then they give it a different name, but then they change the name every few years.
Sure.
Right? So you had like a GLK, they killed that off, and then then they made it like a GLA and a GLC and a GLE and a
And hell,
GLS.
went to
and then
front-wheel
you
drive on the CLA.
You have CLA and a CLS, which is a CLA but more swoopy looking. And then wasn't there a CLC? Did we get that? I don't know. Then they had an SLC, which used to be a hardtop coupe, but then they just made it what was the SLK, and they made it an SLC. It's impossible to find. Like, if you're gonna have a naming convention, like maybe stick to it.
Yeah,
If you're gonna go that route,
Agreed.
and don't torpedo it and make it a bucket of mush, which is like what Infiniti did. I would bank to say, as I said, kind of to get where we started down this wormhole, how there's a lot of reasons why Infiniti is terrible today. I would venture to say that one of the top 5 reasons was the naming convention.
Agreed.
Because they took an already forgettable brand and said, let's make it as forgettable and whitewash and mushy as possible.
Sure.
I don't know. I miss the days when you had like luxury brands that had names.
Oh, yeah, I think
for
we're
their
gonna.
cars.
I think we're gonna get there. I have one more gripe with naming after precious metals. Why would you want?
Platinum.
It looks so bad, and they have it like badged out. And for some reason, it's Ford and Nissan, which doesn't make sense. Like I saw a Maxima,
Right.
Platinum Edition, and I'm like, is that as far as you can come? You saw Ford's been doing it.
What about
longer.
the Midnight Edition?
That too. We already
All
ripped
blacked
that
out,
one. Yeah.
murdered out. They should have called the Murder Edition. God.
But is it just me or like the name Platinum, like precious, like people? Okay, here's where we're gonna play a game within a game. You ready for this?
Oh, okay.
So I always think of stripper names when I think of like gemstones and precious metals.
Platinum, welcome Platinum to the stage, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Or what else are just strippers named after usually? Cars.
True.
Right?
Mercedes, Porsche,
Yeah. So I got a little game for you, Frank.
Kia.
We're gonna play strippers named after car models. What should they be like?
Ooh. Okay.
So go ahead and pick one and kind of
Wait,
describe.
am I naming the strip? Am I picking?
The stripper's car name, so you know how they're named.
So you're
after
gonna
the
describe a stripper?
I'll do one first. Watch this. Lexus. We have a stripper named Lexus, okay? Which is
Okay.
probably true. It's probably very true.
She's reliable.
Yeah. So yeah, built solidly, reliable, but not exceptionally good looking.
Ooh, I don't know.
What do you got for me?
Oh boy. So am I gonna come up with a name?
Yeah, that's
oh boy.
probably a real stripper name.
Make or model? Can I drill
There
down to the
both.
model?
There are both.
There are both.
There are both.
Exactly.
Science.
Yeah. XR4 Ti. No.
Mature.
Scorpio. Oh boy. Okay, so let's say the stripper is named Infiniti. Let's stay with Infiniti.
Infiniti is a good stripper name,
Infiniti.
yeah.
What would you think is an Infiniti?
I don't even know how to describe that stripper. Like that's a weird one. I mean, there's probably one.
She's practical yet forgettable.
Yes. She doesn't even remember her own name. Like
Exactly.
her real
She
name.
shops at Sam's Club and yeah, she's relatively inexpensive and cost effective.
I got a good one for you too.
Cheap to lease.
Porsche. The stripper named Porsche smokes at the beginning of a routine. May give you rod knock.
Oh boy, we're going down a slippery
I
slope
told
here,
you,
my
man.
friend.
I told you. How about DSM?
Well, like it.
She'll walk your crank.
This is true.
DSM. That was
This is true. What a terrible. Isn't DSM also like the the
diamond is in
mental?
there.
But like the Diamante would be a fantastic name for a stripper.
No, I think that's called DM. You're talking about the mental health book.
I think it's DSM.
I think it's just DM.
Is it just
Because I thought like Dungeon Master's Guide.
No, it's mental illness guy. Okay, well,
Sorry, I didn't do that to you.
no, that's a good one. Question though, like, what are some of your favorite? Just generally speaking, what are some of your favorite, maybe even underappreciated, like
Car names?
Car names.
I love animal names, man. I'm just gonna rattle off some good ones here. Cougar, Jaguar, Eagle, Viper, Raptor, Hellcat, Falcon. These are just
Barracudas.
Barracuda.
Barracuda's a good one.
That's a very good one.
It's a good
I
one,
missed
and
like
it's
1,000 of them.
Yeah, they're all wild. You look wildcat.
Sure, yeah.
What about if we're gonna do categories? One, I think it's incredibly lazy, generally pretty boring, but always just works.
For animals?
No, for a name for a car.
Oh, okay.
For a car is naming your model after
Oh god.
after a location.
That makes no sense.
It's lazy, and it doesn't make sense, and it's almost always boring.
Counterpoint, Rubicon.
Rubicon's a good one because it plays into whatever, kind of like Tacoma is. It works, but it doesn't really. It's not as like goes with the vehicle as.
What screams wine country more than a Sonoma? And I'm thinking like an early '90s base model Sonoma pickup.
Yeah, Sonoma.
It does not. It does not.
There's not a Napa. There's Silverado, which the Silverado Trail is in Napa.
Sure.
But it doesn't really scream white.
Tucson, Santa Fe, Hyundai's been doing this for a while.
The Veracruz. The Hyundai Veracruz.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Sienna. Biarritz, if you want to go like.
How about a Riata?
Yeah, Riata. You've got God. There's so many. Portofino, right?
True. Yep.
Portofino. Boy,
There's a few, man.
Is Monza a location? I know it's a track. Or
well, you got the Santa Cruz that just came out.
You've got Santa Cruz. You've got. I mean, there's so many. Denali is named after the park.
Or Yukon, period.
Yeah, Yukon, Denali. Do you remember do you remember those old commercials for the Pontiac minivan? Everything's bigger in Montana. Yeah. There's
God, I love those things though. The plastic
Pontiac
was out of control.
Nobody likes the Pontiac.
No way, dude! It had fog lights.
The transport's far superior.
Oh, I don't know.
The Dustbuster era.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, it is a Dustbuster. That's true.
Silhouette, sneaky, decent name. It's kind of terrible, but it's kind of.
It's got some class, right?
It's got a little bit of class. What are some bad ones?
Well,
truly bad.
Well, I was gonna go back to like animal names that don't apply to the vehicle.
Oh, okay, that works.
So,
that tracks.
What the? Mercury Cougar.
Yeah,
because I may drive it, but it's not that.
But that's what I was thinking. But not even. I picture like a counterfeit Burt Reynolds like smoking a cigar.
Sure.
And it smells like your Ricardo Montalban in his Chrysler Cordoba. Kind of like that, but like I feel like the Chrysler Cordoba shopper is very much the Cougar shopper. Agreed.
There's definitely a Venn diagram in there in the middle. But Viper's perfect. Dodge Viper, very serpentine looking the way it's shaped.
Yeah,
shaped
that's
like
a very
head.
good one. That is a very good
one. One of the best badges of all time, underappreciated. How it has the snake scale pattern hidden in the badge.
Yes.
Ooh, beautiful. But yeah, something about an animal name that doesn't apply. I think that works too. Yeah. I had Mustang Cobra and
Mustang. Yeah.
The Daytona. Yeah.
Pinto.
Oh god. The Bean?
I always like wondered that would be so much better. Like when the Washington Indigenous Peoples of America football team,
the Commanders,
were changing their name. They are now the Commanders, and I wish they stayed the football team.
I like that too. Great. Yeah.
But I always thought it would have been better if they, instead of changing their name, they just changed their mascot to like a potato.
That would have been perfect.
That would have been so much better. Go Taters, get them, mash them. What are some good animal names, if we're going to stick with the animal thing, what are some good animal names that like have not been, that at least that we can think of, have not been utilized?
We definitely need more dinosaurs. Like you got the Trax, the T-Rex, basically. You got
There's
the
a Scorpio.
Raptor.
Is there a scorpion?
I bet somewhere there is.
There's
Well, there's a
like a
scorpion symbol for the Abarth.
Lancia scorpion, right? Or a Scorpio.
Right, the Abarth badge.
Correct. Yeah. What about
dinosaurs, dude.
Centipede? Oh,
Stegosaurus, yeah.
Well, there's the T-Rex.
Well, that's what I said.
There's
yeah.
Velociraptor.
Velociraptor.
The Lophosaurus, like the ones that like spit the poison.
They never really spit in real life, apparently.
Dude, is that a sick new Doloff? That guy's rocking over there. Yeah.
It's an intercool sprayer that you can aim out.
Exactly.
That's bad.
Dude, it's a sick Triceratops, bro.
See, that would work. Yeah. That could be something.
Yeah, you can go.
Oh, I did have one. I made up one.
Oh.
I want my Mitsubishi Mongoose.
That. I feel like there's a mongoose out there. Obviously, the bicycle.
Yes.
Like the BMX.
But this is a little turbocharged hot hatch that can take down Cobra Mustangs.
That would be good.
Mongoose.
Yeah, it's far more agile.
Yeah.
You know, power to weight right there.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Nature, son.
How about just a goose? Like a straight up angry goose.
Could be like the Grey Goose.
The Cobra chicken.
It's only a vodka, but
the Grey Goose.
the Goose edition.
Grey Goose edition.
Alcohol versions of cars.
Oh boy. You can do the Mickeys with like the bee, like the yellow jacket.
Yes. How about the Chevy Cobalt Fireball edition?
Oh, Fireball. Pitbull. We go Pitbull.
More Pitbull.
What about sea creatures?
Wow. You have Stingray Corvettes.
You have the Stingray. You go. So what if you did like Sea Cucumber? Or you go.
That's aggressive.
Lobster. You know.
Infiniti's leaving that on the table, I think.
The sea cucumber.
Segue from cues to sea cucumbers.
It's the fleshlight of the sea. But like you can go. I don't know, unagi. I don't know. There's gotta be.
Ooh, yeah, the Japanese.
The king crab. Like you can go.
King crab edition. It's like an F-150 for sure.
Well, we just lost 1 billion of them, sir. We can't explain it. I don't know. It just fell off the continental shelf.
Well, the Hummer EV has crab walk. I mean, that's like.
It does. It does, and probably there's at least one Hummer EV owner out there with crabs themselves.
How do crabs still exist, man? I guess
like which crabs?
Pubes
like
are
the
coming
lice?
back. Yeah, I guess pubes are coming back. Okay.
That's true. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, nobody wants to be like a creeper now. Like the dead cat on the top of the camera right there.
He's keeping the 80s.
Meow. So like I don't know. What are some of just the best overarching names, just general, like that nobody appreciates?
I don't know.
XR4 Ti is actually pretty terrible. Pretty good.
How about a Saab Viggen?
They could have kept Sierra.
Saab Viggen.
Viggen's kind of dope.
Because it's a fighter jet, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Saabs totally aren't based on jets at all, but except for Night Panel.
Ram.
Night Panel's legit.
What about Ram no longer being Dodge? Still, everyone calls it a Dodge Ram, but that's sure Ram.
Yeah, right.
That was just a weird.
That's weird.
A weird move.
Another animal name we left off too.
That is true.
Yeah.
Ram. Power Stroke. Awkward.
Big horn edition. Yeah, Power Stroke's weird. Ram Charger was cool. That's a good nameplate.
Yeah, the Ram Charger.
Like that stuff. The Judge.
Monte Carlo. We forgot on the locations. Monte Carlo.
Yeah, true. How about the Judge? That's like a cool, tough name.
That's a good name.
Yeah. Or the Cobra Terminator, which was an unofficial name.
That's a good one.
Badass names, right?
Does anyone know what a Miata is?
I guess it's not a thing.
Sneaky decent. Forester.
Sure.
For what the car is. You know what's actually really good? Outback.
Outback's very good.
The way that car is, the original Outback, along with the marketing they did.
Paul Hogan.
Yep. And the original logo, which was like a muddy track that said Outback over the top of it.
So cool.
That's generally really good. You know what's actually really good nobody thinks about? Corvette. Corvette is a good name. It was after a fast runabout like wartime escort ship.
Sure.
Which is like kind of dope to think about.
Yeah.
There's not that many vehicles named after war machines.
True. Yes.
You know, like I drive a Panzer. Like
except for the vehicles that are named after war machines, like an Abrams tank or a T-44.
Sure. Yeah. Like actual
military vehicles.
But there's no nobody commuting in their like civilian version of a Bradley fighting vehicle.
They had the Call of Duty versions of some of these, right? There was a Jeep Rubicon Call of Duty edition.
They did
Modern Warfare.
COD version. Yeah, that's funny.
Wasn't there a Walking Dead Hyundai too? Because
they did, yeah. It's got like bloody handprints on the side.
Yeah.
Wow.
Forester was good. How did we forget Mustang for animal car names? Like one of the most like.
I thought it got mentioned.
We mentioned Cobra, but we didn't mention
Mustang. Mustang, Pinto, other horses, Bronco.
Yeah.
Bronco. You know what's actually as good as Corvette is? You know what's not great? Camaro. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's fine. I mean, that's one that's like wrong. Well, no.
What's with the anti-Italian sentiment today? You pineapple pizza. You led off the episode with. Sure. Now you're talking about Camaro being a bad name.
What's ironic is I was literally last night, like I woke up and I couldn't fall asleep, and I was like randomly just like Googling like my Italian heritage.
Oh, okay.
Which is like
I thought
like
17%
or something. There. International Race of Champions. That's a good one. No, I mean, how about this hot take? Peugeot Sangue.
Okay.
The new Ferrari SUV, like pure blood.
Yeah, dude.
But it's actually kind of dope. It's an NAV12.
What about La Ferrari? The Ferrari.
Forgettable. You know, Enzo, like it's fine, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, I would F60 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Instead of Enzo.
That's weird. Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird.
I don't know.
Make it weird, man.
Keep it weird.
Like arbitrary alpha-numeric combinations, like we talked about.
Yeah.
I drive a '69 ICUP.
Oh boy! Don't whiz on the electric fence. The what are your thoughts on like manufacturers trying to cash in some of their brand cachet on new models? Like you mentioned when they brought back the T-Bird, the Thunderbird.
Sure.
And it was kind of a smoldering pile of garbage. I mean, it was horrible. It won like Car of the Year, but like not that meant anything. You can go back.
It's like a JD Power.
Right, initial quality. Like that's fine, but like after 20,000 miles, it just turns into a ball of goo.
Sure.
But what I mean by that is, you know, and I had mentioned this earlier, but I'm curious to get your opinion on it. Much was made about the new Ford EV crossover electric being the Mustang Mach-E. Everyone had, and it probably, a lot of the hubbub has died down now. It's been a while. What are your thoughts then and now as far as the new EV crossover from Ford? The Mustang Mach-E. Like, does it offend you personally? Do you like it's brilliant, somewhere in between? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a brilliant vehicle. I think that's not contested at this point. I think they definitely cashed in on a recognizable nameplate. Probably Ford's biggest recognizable nameplate, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. That or their other electric vehicle, right? The F-150.
Sure, and they weren't going to do that. Well, now they are.
They are.
Yeah, Lightning. But the problem with that is they just threw, I feel like the afterthought of Mustang was the styling they threw in after, right? They put the Mustang grille, they gave it some general swoopiness like the Mustang, but the rear end has Mustang characteristics. I think they should have just done their own thing, to tell you the truth.
And just made it a standalone. Would you have, because I would like to agree with you, because I think that's like
well, you know what?
But at the same time, I absolutely understand them saying, we need to, this is going to be our first true foray into this, like, Focus EV notwithstanding. And then
one of those, by the way.
A Focus EV?
Yeah.
You owned one of those?
Yeah, back in we're the first year, 2012, I think it was.
Was it okay?
It's pretty good. Pretty good, yeah. I mean, it was like one of those, it was like in comparison to the e-Golf and all those kind of early,
e-Golf,
74 mile.
Yeah.
But it was good just for buzzing around. And
Yeah.
Ford Focus is really nice. I mean, it's a nice vehicle, good space, very functional.
Yeah. Interesting
car.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But like, so you had them do, okay. So I understand the concept of being like, hey, this is one of your like gems.
Sure.
Why are you taking the Mustang brand name, which is almost Mustang 2 aside?
Yeah.
Almost unassailable. And trying to cash that in on an EV crossover, like a 4,800 pound crossover EV.
Well, that's what
But I also understand them saying like, hey, we have one shot to get this right. We need to A, make a decent car, which by all accounts it is. I've never driven one.
Sure.
And B, how are we going to get people to pay attention to it? One of our biggest like arrows in our quiver is, and back to talking about importance of a name, is the Mustang name, which is a brand within itself, much like Corvette is, much like Bronco is, much like F-150 is,
right?
Escalade is, and so I understand why they did it, and I think from a business standpoint, it makes a ton of sense, and I think they'll be better off for it in the long run.
Sure, but they could have done a Mustang Mach-E and built it on the Mustang platform. Like, just straight up make it look like a regular Mustang, but full electric. I think that would have been more applicable. I'm not arguing about the marketing because they killed it by using Mustang, but they could have made a Mustang Mach-E in the Mustang form.
They could have, and I think they are with the new one, right? They've announced that they are going to make a new version. But I think you buy a Mustang, A, because you want to high center yourself on a median leaving a car for coffee, and B, you buy it to the most.
It's definitely pedestrian whacking.
Definitely crunchies, they call those, the Mustang driver, pedestrians.
Yeah.
But you buy a Mustang for the noise and the cacophony in the engine, and, and the smoky burnout and all that, the fire and brimstone. So I get that component. Although I think from a car guy history thing, I think Galaxy because they already spelled
Yeah.
Ford Galaxy not with a Y but with an IE.
Right.
But it has 1/1000th the brand cachet as Mustang does. I'm curious. Should they have? I don't know. What should they have dusted off? Festiva? No.
I mean, they nailed it. It worked.
Aspire.
Yeah. Aspire.
Exactly. Aspire. So I don't know, but that one bugged me way less than what Cadillac ended up doing with the CTS-V.
Yeah.
Which was the CTS-V for the first few generations was like the hot shit, and then they just made it like a sport trim on their stuff.
Well, they did that. Mopar did that for a little while. SRT Design. Have you ever seen those vehicles?
Oh,
Where they have,
it was just it was almost like the Audi Sport line.
Yeah, well, yeah, or N line for Hyundai now.
Yeah, not the N.
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
You
just,
get the
if you want
looks.
to have your own intermediate thing, like, just have
But
your
it's
own
not.
intermediate brand.
It looks so. The biggest one is the GT series of Dodge products, like the Challenger
Right.
GT, Charger GT. They get the hood scoop. They look like mini Hellcats,
Right.
but they're running like the base engine. It's like an SST.
I'm actually okay with that as long as you
No.
call it like a different sub model,
No, because it's
and
called
not
like a
like
Charger GT.
that'd be like if they called it the SRT8 now, but they said, well, we have the SRT Hellcat. So like that's the big dog one, and we're gonna make the prior generation big dog that everyone was clamoring for, just like an appearance package. That's when it bugs me, you know, like they did with the CTS-V. Like the CTS-V was like that had some brand cachet, and then they just made it like it's a performance package on a more base model car, and then you have to get the black wing, which has no. They decided to make that the new thing, which I think it should be the other way around.
It doesn't matter. It's their last shot at doing it, so I think it's out, right? Because they're
Unless
done.
they go like the black wing E,
Oh,
CTS-E, or no, we're not even CTS anymore. We're what, CT5, CT4.
yeah, right.
So they've changed up their naming convention again too.
Oh man.
I don't know.
And on that somber note.
Yeah, I know. We can probably. It's funny. I was thinking about like when we were talking earlier. Like, do you want to just like talk about names of cars?
Yeah.
And it's just like I don't know. Maybe I don't know if we can stretch it out for
45
plus minutes. And we're still sitting.
Yeah, I mean, like the high points. Obviously, like there's some weird naming conventions out there, but a lot of brands right now, because we're all thinking back to like the classic cars.
Yeah.
And names come back around, and sometimes it's successful. I think the Bronco's been highly successful.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's not successful.
What hasn't been?
Chevy Blazer.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. The Blazer.
How
it's
hard
like
to
a
make
Round
this?
4 competitor.
How
And
hard
then the
to make this that?
Trailblazer, which is, I mean, there was not a lot of brand cachet in a Trailblazer, but like, it will never touch a trail.
The Jimmy would have been cool. Like
Somebody
bring
might
back
blaze
the-
in one though.
Yeah, GMC Jimmy and make it like retro looking and 2-door only.
That's a mildly uncomfortable name, the Jimmy.
Yeah, well,
It was mildly
gotta live with it, man.
cough.
Remember when we were okay being uncomfortable at one point as a society?
Oh no,
Not anymore.
exactly. Yeah. Well, that's back when we were talking about what makes a great sports car, and I just kept saying the whole time about like making it a GT car with like super plush seats and air conditioning.
Wait, GT's just an appearance package, remember?
That's true. That's true. Grand Tour, no more.
Right.
But yeah, the whole name thing is interesting.
Yeah.
we can sit here probably all day and talk about various good names and bad names, and does it matter? I think it does matter. I think that at the end of the day, it boils down to it. It won't ever make a great car, or actually, sorry, let me do this. It won't make a terrible car great, and it will never make a. However, it can make a very, very good car an afterthought or kind of forgettable or
for sure.
a joke.
Yep.
You know, like if they made a new, if Pontiac still existed, or they say they relaunched Pontiac, and they decided that they were going to make a new like overlanding, camping friendly, like outdoor enthusiast vehicle, which absolutely should exist, and they would sell billions of them.
Sure.
They would sell 400,000 a year. But if they called it the Aztec, people would probably giggle and walk away. If they named it something else, more rugged, you know, again, go back to just playing it safe and naming it after a location.
I was gonna say
you
that.
know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's called the Glamis, or it's called the Sturgis. I don't know. Pick a
Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly.
Even after some
Yeah, Zion might be a little bit too
national
weird,
parks.
but
Yeah, that'd be a little weird.
yeah,
The Yellowstone.
Exactly. But you name it after, the Arches edition. Like, that could be successful, but if you name it the Aztec, it might be like, where's the plastic cladding, bro?
Yeah.
You got an Aztec.
The indigenous people, blah, blah, blah.
Even those have become, like, slightly, like, they're so bad they're cool.
Yes.
Pontiac Aztec, so
Sure.
maybe it would be okay. But yeah, like, you could take a good and competitive car and maybe potentially torpedo it based on a name.
Parting shot, Subaru Brat could come back, a nice little pickup truck-based car that's.
They tried with the
attitude.
Baja again, another geographic.
God, that was hideous.
Location.
I'm sorry. I think they're quirky and cool, but they are hideous as fuck.
Yeah, they're not great. They're not great looking with like the weird like flip down like license plate bracket.
I think if
thing.
you're going quirky, cool off-roader by Subaru, you gotta go Forester XT, the early ones. It's such a better vehicle.
Oh, it is. It is way more practical.
Yeah, that too. All right,
but speaking of
let's
impractical. Oh, you're coming at me this time.
Bet I am.
I always lose track of who is quizzing who. While you get your ducks in a row, I'm going to close my laptop for posterity.
Crack,
because my friend Chadwick here will be quizzing all over me. By that I mean he is going to take a piece of print copy from the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. It's going to be an ad. A print ad from perhaps a magazine.
Perhaps.
And he's going to read this advertisement, all of the print copy there, while kind of subtracting out all of the overly identifying information, make, model, year. And then it will be on me to determine what the make, model, year of this vehicle is. Year can be approximate, but at least the make and model. And I get 3 guesses. I can get hints in between those guesses should I get them wrong, but I won't. Chadwick.
And 10 minutes on the clock.
Oh, that's right. We are now in the era of timing, so we don't completely sit here and hem and haw into a mic for an inappropriate length of time.
Which is anything over 10 minutes.
Exactly. Anywho, Chadwick.
You ready to go, bud?
What are we working with?
Okay. So we have the ad. It is an entire photo, so it just has some text over the actual photo. Okay. So there isn't any segmentation here. There isn't any boxes. It's straight up a huge photo of the vehicle on a mountaintop.
Ooh, okay. Mercury Mountain, you're fine.
Very scenic, yeah, right. And he's out. Here we go. To all the places you never knew existed. Introducing the new blank blank.
Oh.
The best equipped standard 4x4. On or off the road.
Ooh, okay.
This 4x4 is so well equipped. It starts out on top, fully equipped. We made sure you were covered
officially equipped,
top to bottom, with skid plates for the engine, transfer case, and fuel tank.
Okay.
If it's power you want, Frank, aimed squarely at you.
No, I got it.
There's plenty. Oh. Provided by a gutsy 2.6 liter 4-cylinder engine.
Okay.
Fully instrumented. John Davis approved for motor wheel.
There we go. Are the radio controls too low and slightly out of reach?
No oil pressure. When we say blank is fully equipped, we mean inside and out. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, guys. Everything from a tachometer.
I think they've made the determination that this vehicle is fully equipped.
Tachometer to inclinometer. Or is it an inclinometer? I don't know. Check that one.
I always like to go inclinometer.
I'm pretty sure that's not. We'll go with it though. From power brakes to power steering, from independent front suspension to an optional driver's seat with its own suspension. Now that is cool.
Like a box truck?
You heard it.
Huh.
And if that's not enough, surely it isn't. How about reclining front buckets, front and rear tow hooks? That's a weird combination. Automatic locking hubs, all-terrain radios. The list goes on and on, which I'm glad they didn't. All of which makes blank the best equipped standard 4x4. There's no stopping you now. What are we talking about, Frank? Let me get started.
Well, okay. There's really not a ton to go on. It's a 2.6 4-banger, which gives me some potentialities. It is if it's got a straight up transfer case, this has got to be body on, like a straight up body on frame 4x4. So that's going to rule out unibody stuff. I think it could, notable exception to some of the Jeep offerings with like the Cherokee and Grand Cherokee, but you could never, they had a 2.5 4-banger. You could not get a 2.4.
This is a 2.6, correction.
Correct. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's what I meant. This is a 2.6. This very well could be a Mitsubishi Montero, like a first gen. I know you can get a bigger displacement 4-cylinder in something like an Isuzu Trooper. In the earlier ones, I don't remember if it's a 2.6. And then there's also potential if it's going to be the Mitsubishi Montero, that it could also be like a Raider. But did it say it had rear seats?
Did it say that?
I don't think so. No, because you said front buckets and then reclining front buckets and then front and rear tow hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So not rear seats. I don't have a great handle on the layout of this vehicle. Because it didn't really, it just said 4x4. It didn't say anything about cargo capacity or a bed or a passenger compartment outside of it being fully equipped, which they mentioned many times.
Driver's side seat with suspension.
This is true. Optional driver's side seat with suspension. But there's nothing to hint on number of doors. Does it have a rear hatch? Does it have a bed? I didn't hear anything specifically differentiating this between an SUV or just like a straight up pickup truck. Okay, so with the which goods, if it's a truck, it could also be like a Mazda B2600. Which for some reason I feel like you could get like a sprung seat, which is weird. Boy. I'm going to go with my first inkling, and I'm going to say that this is a first generation Mitsubishi Montero. Final answer. Though I'm not super.
I think that's a well-informed decision to make that as your first guess.
However,
the Montero was a very sexy vehicle, but that is not what we're talking about today, Frank.
Okay.
God, I love how those look, though.
Those are great.
Do you have anything you're requesting assistance to?
My Mitsubishi Montero guess was from what some might refer to the land of the rising sun. It is a Japanese. It is from and branded as from a Japanese manufacturer. Would this vehicle be from a Japanese manufacturer? Because I feel like that's kind of definitely what it is.
To answer this question, I will be giving it away.
Ooh, boy.
I can give you the answer, but it's going to be dead on.
Well, don't do that then.
Yes.
My last guess was a
door. You were asking about door count.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Was like a 4-door SUV, although they made it 2-door, but then they called it mostly the Raider, or that was a Dodge Raider. What is our door count, sir?
You were looking at a 2-door 4x4.
Okay. I almost want to come back then to the Mazda B2600. There was no Toyota offering that would do this. Certainly no Honda offering. It would potentially be Mitsubishi. It would potentially be the Mazda B2600, so it could be Mazda.
You have 5 minutes on the clock.
I have 5 minutes. I'm at the halfway mark. Could it be a Dodge Raider? I'm just gonna grip it and rip it. The guess, not my genitalia. I'm gonna go Dodge Raider. Is this a Dodge Raider? Was I that close?
Dodge Raider, huh? Not the best equipped standard 4x4 import on or off the road, imported for Dodge, built by Mitsubishi Motors Corporation. Introducing the new Dodge Raider. Whew! Good guess, my friend. I think 2600 was pretty close too, though.
Yeah, especially with the door count. Because correct me if I'm wrong, maybe unless I didn't hear anything correctly. Was there no absolute no door count, no factor? They didn't talk about back seats. They didn't talk about a bed. They didn't talk about cargo capacity.
None of those things.
Boy, that's tricky.
They really touted the features inside, which was a popular.
And that is fully equipped.
Yeah, but the suspension
Inside
seat is freaking cool.
That is pretty dope.
That is cool. 2.6 is a weird engine displacement.
It is. That's like the same that they had turbocharged effectively in the Starion.
I'm sorry. Did you say Stallion?
Starion.
Starlion.
Starlion. Dodge Raider.
You got there, and boy, I love these things, man.
Those are cool. What a 2-year offering?
It's basically a Pajero or Piero or however you want to
It's
say it.
Pajero.
Yeah.
But they only offered that 2 years, 3 years, 2 years.
I think a few years.
I think it was like 2. I don't know off the top of my head, but
They're sweet.
pretty and a 2-door only for the Dodge Raider, right?
Only, yeah. It was the 2-door Montero. Let's be
Correct.
honest. Yeah, that's all it was.
Correct.
With some Dodge badges, but straight up Mitsubishi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool,
It's a
man.
2-door because I thought. My thought was why I didn't think it would be like the B2600 was if you're talking trucks, there's always like with a competitive bed or a dual, a fully galvanized steel bed, or they're always talking about cargo capacity, which this did not approach.
Not at all. Nope.
Because it's probably actually quite low as far as like cargo capacity.
Pretty small.
And they don't want to like sing that from the mountain.
Not Suzuki Samurai, but close.
Not Samurai-ish. Speaking of ish, what kind of ish have you been working on lately, my friend? We should project cars.
Here's the ad,
update
by the
ourselves.
way. Fantastic ad, dude.
Look at that.
So you got a full mountain shot with the Raider on top. I love the full photo ads. I mean, these are fantastic.
Okay, so that's got the circle lights. Did the Raiders have the circle lights, and then the Montero 2-doors had the square lights with the big chrome center grille?
That's going to be a generational thing. I think the early Monteros did have round lights. I think they did.
I think they did, but like that. So that Raider, they only did the Raider for a couple of years. So was it only the round light generation?
They stretched them from the late 80s to early 90s because I remember the Raider went kind of long into the 90s, and I think they did a redesign.
With the square light.
I think so. I'll have to double check.
Raider fanboys react.
Yeah, the Raider forum chime in.
Exactly. Razor.
All right, brother. What do you? Yeah, so we're talking about doing some PCP, some project car progress. You wanna lead us off, man? Since you just crushed that ad.
I can. You know what I'm gonna lead us off with?
Yeah. No idea.
I think I mentioned about like picking up another lost soul car and dragging it home.
Sounds about right.
I brought it home and I fixed it. Just like that.
How dare you?
So this was it's a 1987 Volvo 760 GLE Turbo, 176,000 miles.
Okay.
It was bound for the crusher. It had a massive boost leak that, on a cursory glance, the organization I bought it from couldn't figure it out, and they were antsy to move it on, and so it's for $600 it's going to go to the local wrecker, the pick and pull, which is very sad because the car is actually remarkably clean and it's cool. It's a turbo brick, automatic, but very clean leather interior. Just the body's almost perfectly straight. Very good car. And so I offered for $100 more than the wrecker was going to crush it into a cube for to buy it and save it.
Okay.
So I got it home. Me and my son, the kindergartner, mom was busy for a Saturday afternoon, and so we said, "Hey, let's roll up our sleeves." And I told him the whole story. Like, this car's gonna get crushed, and it's on us to save it and bring it back, and we have to bring it back, and someone else is gonna enjoy it, and on. So that's what we did. Snooped around it. I went to my local AutoZone, which is right down the street. And I'm like, "Hey, do you guys have a boost tester? I want to get a boost tester or a boost leak tester." To try and sluss it out. And they don't have one predictably. Okay, well let me just, first before I do anything dramatic, let's just poke around the engine bay. And what do I find? So this has an external bypass valve, which is basically a blow-off valve, but instead of just venting the atmosphere, it puts it back into the intake tract. Yep,
recirc.
Which is how it should be done. And that's why OEMs do that. And so...
shots fired.
I know, right? So what do I see? Bypass valve sits on a bracket. It has a short length of hose coming off the charge pipe that goes to the back of the bracket that then ports into the the bypass valve, and then dumps that into another bracket that then has a pipe going back into the intake tract.
Correct.
On the boost side of the bypass valve, it's held in with 2 bolts and a gasket. Well, one of the bolts was missing. The other one was very loose, and the gasket had spit the gasket out.
Yep.
That's all it was.
Worst
So
place
I
to have
go,
a vacuum.
there it is. Look at that. So I called Volvo. They can get the part, but it's 6 weeks out. It's $4.64.
Sure.
But it's 6 weeks out.
Yep.
So I just went to said AutoZone I was just at with the pressure tester. I just bought a length of gasket material. So made a template, hand cut a new gasket.
Nice.
Super simple. It was just like an oval with 2 bolt holes and a hole in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Slap it on in there. 2 new replacement bolts. Torque it down. Fire it up.
Of course.
Things run beautifully. Makes full boost. Makes good power. I drive it straight to the smog station. Don't even get it warm. Get it to operating temp. That's it. Drive right to. Sails right through smog. Blows roses and rose petals and hugs and kisses out the tailpipe.
Unicorn queefs. Yeah.
So I'm probably just gonna turn it and sell it off to some other Volvo enthusiast.
That's a great car.
Probably gonna get the headliners sagging pretty badly, so we'll get that taken care of.
Sure.
But that's kind of it.
Nice.
So
Feels good to
mission
save
accomplished.
money.
Oh, the kid was super pumped. He said,
Feels
"We
good.
saved it, Dad. We saved it."
Yeah.
Like, yes, we did. We've done our part. So
I love that. It took like 10 minutes to diagnose. It would have taken 6 weeks to order the part, and it's like a 10-minute job maybe.
yeah, that's what I'm like. No, I'm just gonna go and we'll just cut it and I thought about going like full hood rat, like finding like an empty like 24 pack box and like make one out of like the.
Don't do it.
But I was like, nah.
Yeah,
The
any
rest of
moisture
the
gets
car
in
is
there.
actually very clean and was very well kept, and so
It's worth a new gasket.
it's worth the new gasket.
For the price of entry anyway.
Right. How about you? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so I got the Forester XT behind me, a 2004.
That's right.
Starting the timing belt job, which is a pretty involved job. So removing everything from the engine bay. Actually, surprisingly easy to do the timing belt one of these. You got to really just pull the radiator.
Cool.
Just get your access. It's on the front of the engine, which is lovely versus those transverse engines that have the timing belt
Yes.
pinched between the fender and.
What a pain.
Yeah, like 2 inches of movement. But
makes
anyway, real easy here. But the only thing is, I'm doing valve covers too because they are leaking.
Cool.
And that is the bane of a Subaru engine. Is those valve covers are not accessible. You have to remove the airbox to get to the passenger side. Driver side, you're pulling your alternator cables, a bunch of other cables, and moving your windshield washer reservoir out of the way. And it's still an angle to get down to them because you have to pull the covers off and spark plugs at the same time. So. So far so good. Everything's going good. You have to drain the oil too and coolant beforehand because it is a flat engine. You're gonna get oil surprise if you don't take that before you take your valve covers off. But we're going through this. Everything's gonna be OEM Subaru. I'm not playing around with this guy. It has like 5 or 8,000. So it's got a lot of mileage on it. But I'm only the 3rd owner. And it has a great maintenance record history, so it's a perfect example to go through and put this effort into. So that's what I'm doing, man. That's it. Really short and sweet. Just
Good.
Timing belts. That thing I love to do on everything I can.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the thing.
Jeez.
It's just that's how you end up getting
Deals. Mm-hmm.
getting the deals that you do. So, very good. Well, I guess that's it. Thanks for hanging out on. Well, you won't be listening to this on Halloween, but we listen to ourselves here on Halloween.
Yeah. Well, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy belated Halloween.
That's right.
That
Happy
what you-
November 2nd, I suppose.
That sounds about
So yeah, thanks for hanging out. We are another Pointless Automotive podcast. If you want to see what I'm up to independent of this, and why wouldn't you? I'm at the Photographer's Garage on all of the things. We are together as one at APA Podcast on Instagram. Chadwick, where might you be?
Yep. Auto Obsessive Garage. Find me tearing into crap boxes, bringing them back to life.
More on that to come.
Yeah, it never stops.
Yeah, can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again. As always, guys, take care.
Toodles!
Happy Halloween!